Hey everybody, it is the Trout. Welcome to the Trout Show. Thank you for stopping by. If this is the first time you've been to my show and want to watch it, this is what I do. I interview famous musicians, independent musicians, and people that are involved in the music industry. All of them great talents on their own accord. Today's episode's not any different. What do you call a guy that is a solar energy expert that decides after a successful career in energy to say, I want to start writing songs? You write songs, and then all of a sudden, your YouTube videos hit over 1 million on one of your tunes, and you're like, wow. Well, that's the story of Chris Bullinger, our guest today on the show. Chris talks about how he went from a successful person in the energy field, which he still works in, to a very unique and successful songwriter. It's a very interesting story, to say the least. So if you want to know more about that, sit back, get yourself an adult beverage, and take time to listen or watch this episode with what I call a great songwriter, a troubadour, wonderfully unique voice, the story of Chris Bullinger. That's next on The Trout Show.
The Trout Show is supported by David Smith with Edward Jones. David has years of experience of assisting individuals just like you with reaching their financial possibilities. There are times in our life that we come across financial problems and we don't know what to do. Maybe you had a relative that recently passed away and left you a large sum of money. However, you're not clear on what to do. If you live in the continental United States, I suggest you contact David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587. David can look at your situation and provide his expertise that he has been providing his clients for years. Don't tackle these situations by yourself. Contact David at 469-372-1587 to help you make decisions that are important to your financial situation. That's David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587.
So let's start at the beginning. You said you grew up in the Midwest, or they said. Where did you grow up at?
I bounce around quite a bit. I usually say Midwest to try to end that conversation. but it inevitably leads to the next question, which is where exactly. So
No, I don't really care. I mean, I live in Dallas. People wonder why I don't have an accent. I moved to the Midwest, Kansas City area for years, and moved back several years ago. So I understand.
Yeah, I lived there. My dad was a salesman, so we bounced around quite a bit, and lived near Kansas City for a good portion of my life.
Oh, really? Where near Kansas City?
Blue Springs.
Oh, sure. Sub, yeah.
Yeah, I was a big baseball fan back when the Royals were good the first time.
But the other thing too about you is I noticed that, because I do a lot of research of people, I try to find something about them that's other than what you put on your website or something. But you also had some connections in Carolinas, right? Some people kind of got destroyed or hurt during the hurricane, or is that some relatives of yours or friends?
Right. I've got relatives down in South Carolina and spent a lot of time in Nashville, North Carolina, which was devastated. I was actually there when it hit.
Wow.
It was as bad as you see on TV. I know some things are overhyped for media, but it was it's a pretty dire situation.
But your home is in Nashville, isn't it? Is that correct, or is that where you live now?
Tennessee, yes.
Yeah.
But I spent Asheville and Nashville.
Well, looking at your bio, and that was the one thing that got me, because I used to be in corporate America. Let's start with your music side. When did you start playing? I mean, did you start as a young person? I mean, did you pick up a guitar, or what? Tell me all about that real quick.
I mean, when I was little, I took piano lessons. I was not very good at it. Then I wanted to learn fiddle. And someone handed me a violin, and I was like, no, I wanted to play the fiddle.
You
Wasn't
didn't know
very good at that
they're the
either.
same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was not till high school when I picked up a guitar, and that really that clicked with me a lot better than the piano or the violin did.
But then, okay, so did did you play with guys in high school or any of that stuff, or you just kind of wanted to play by yourself, or,
Yeah, it was
I mean,
more just me for writing, and so I started writing poetry at quite a young age too.
okay.
And at some point, I decided to put a tune to it. So a lot of it was just me experimenting on my own, and started really with some of my poems in the guitar and just working through what could happen. Now, a poem is not a song, and a song is not a poem necessarily. So that was
No.
maybe not the best way to start, but that's how I did it. Um, and then I just really stuck with it on my own for quite some time before starting to play with other folks.
But it's interesting because if you look at some of the famous musicians, Elton John's primary one with Bernie Taupin, Elton wrote the music, Bernie wrote the words, and you're sitting there thinking, how did they get together? I mean, not like that, but how did he take the words and put the music to it? All the songs I've written when I do vocals, I usually it's rare that I write, excuse me, it's rare that I write the lyrics first. It's very rare. I write the song, and I get the melody and go, okay, what am I going to sing about this time? But
Yeah, that's been happening to me more lately. Like I said, since I started out as a poet, I started leading with the lyrics way back when, and for a good portion of them, I write them together. I mean, the tune and the words will come to me simultaneously. A lot of it, and it's just more recent, maybe because just for the new technique where I've started to write some of the melody first and then later the lyrics on afterwards.
when you said your dad traveled a lot, what was your dad's music? What did he listen to?
Oh, like Don Williams, Willie Nelson, like old country.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he was a country guy.
yeah, that was probably my first influence really in music. I wasn't the one choosing it, but I was grooving to it. I got turned on to that pretty quick. I like that sound.
Thus, you live in Nashville now. You can go enjoy it all the time you want to. Just walk down the street. Hey, there's another bar I want to go into. Yeah. But the interesting thing to me was, of course, is the way your life has gone, and the fact that you're in this solar energy thing,
Hmm.
and so tell me something about. I mean, that's kind of I mean, obviously, some people have a day job, they work someplace else, and they work at the bars at night or whatever. But you were fairly successful of the solar energy thing. Did that come to you at an early age? You kind of got into it, or you said, "Oh man, I like this stuff."
I fell into the kind of power industry shortly out of college, and it wasn't something I was necessarily looking for. Back in the day, there were ads in newspapers, as I'm sure you recall.
I remember those.
I actually found my first job in the power industry in the Chicago Tribune. So that's
Okay.
I got into the industry, and there wasn't much solar at that point, other than maybe on a Casio watch or something, or on a satellite in outer space. But I got into power, and I'm talking coal, hydro, natural gas fired plants.
Right.
But nowadays, most of the new power plants are tending towards solar, wind, some battery storage, and natural gas still.
Yeah.
Not a lot of new coal plants in the U.S. being built. So I've really just migrated with the technologies, basically.
So as you were working in the power industry, were you performing? Were you doing your side gig, or were you just doing that full time?
No, full time in the power industry, and then I put out a couple albums back, I don't know, a decade, 15 years ago, and then I started up a new business. Really, when the solar started getting big, I really sat the music aside for quite some time, and it's just really a few years ago got back into the recording, and that's where we end up with the albums I put out the past few years. When I was young, I probably hung out with more older people,
Okay.
When I'm older, I might hang out with more younger people. So it's something that I haven't related to, I don't think, like a lot of people in any case. So that might have helped me also, get back into the music and not really care about that factor.
Well, but the other part too, your music is not, and I hate to say this, I don't mean it derogatorily, it's not mainstream. So you're unique.
Take that as a
And
compliment. Yeah.
well, it is. That's exactly what's, and I mean that because so many people want to emulate everybody else. And when you're unique, there's good news and bad news. The good news is people don't, they're looking because you're unique. And bad news is people don't look at you because you're unique. So it's more difficult. But I think in this day and age, the way music is, there are so many different performers doing all sorts of things that when you do what you do, and I have a real admiration for people like you that can sit down, whether with yourself or with another accompanist, and can get the attention of a crowd just by guitar and singing. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the greatest things. If you can do that and hold their attention and people like it, that's really good.
It's something that I appreciate that viewpoint. It's something that took me a while to come around to, and even if I have trouble with authority or don't really want to or need to fit in the mainstream, there's still something about a performer that wants some response. I can perform at my place by myself anytime if I can do that. So if I'm out somewhere, then I would expect some response as a performer. So it's just
Sure.
it's just mutual. And the question is being, I think, comfortable with it, and it's not a competition by any stretch. If the music connects with one person, that's a success to me.
I understand that completely. And that's the one thing I learned later in life, that it's not competition. And I've interviewed hundreds of performers, and the one thing I learned was when you're young, you think you're competing with everybody else, but you're not really. Because if you get into the professional mode, and everybody I've interviewed have been very kind to me and nice, and some of them are very famous, and they're doing their thing. So my thing is this, your thing is that. And even if you're both guitarists, it's like, oh, you do this better than I do. But it's not sitting around like, I'm going to play. It's not like a kid when I'm going to play faster than he can play. So I can appreciate that, because the other thing too is when you're unique, you draw attention to yourself because you're different. And you have a very unique voice. I'm not telling anything you don't already know, which is one of those things that when I heard it the first time, I just kind of went, well, that's different. And that's why we're having this conversation, because I liked your music, but also the fact that you're unique when that comes to that voice that you have. And I think your message obviously is not, your messages come from here, obviously a lot of it, and your life experiences. So when you how many albums have you brought out now? I know you just finished one, or you had one come out in August, or I'm bringing you up
So
to date.
the one that's out now, waiting to be seen, it's a double album.
Okay, I
And
knew
the first
that.
half of that was released this year. The second half is going to be released, I think, in March next year. And then we had an album previous year, album the year before that. And then I've got two from 10, 15 years ago at this point. So 5 total, counting this double album that's half out, half going to be released.
So let's talk about the logistics in this. Do you have a lot of friends? Do you have to hire studio musicians? What do you do when you go into the studio?
Well, it really started with a couple of my buddies who are more one of them is a touring musician. And so he has helped assemble the team when we got back in the studio a few years ago. And that was really helpful. He and I would, the three of us would sit around basically outside and play, run through the songs, talk about possibilities. What if we changed the tempo? What if we made this one a little more country, this one a little more rock? And then when we got into the studio, it was some musicians that my lead guitar had played with before or knew very well. So it was a pretty cohesive group. in that two or three of us knew two or three of each of the other. So we were all connected in some way as we stepped into the studio. And I'll tell you, that's one thing too, you got to be comfortable with. I know when I walk in the studio, I am the least competent musician in that room. But
and I will tell you this is one of the things that I've always said. If I owned a studio, you take people's money no matter how good or bad they are, and everybody comes to the studio and they all want to talk to the producer or the guy that's sitting, the engineer, going, what do you think? And you can't, if they are not good at all, you can't tell them, well, you could maybe a little work on it or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on. Talking to some of the engineers that run these soundboards, they just got to get through. I mean, that's their job. I mean,
that's their job. That's what they get paid to do.
They don't have to like the music. They make the best of it, of course, working with the artist. But there's certainly some horror stories out there, I'm sure.
The last time I was in was 2.5 years ago. I was in Muscle Shows. I brought a friend of mine in to do a song. And he'd never been really in a studio before. He'd been, but not really. I just asked him to come in and play drums if I wanted to. So we sat down, and we were just sitting there talking. And after about, I don't know, maybe an hour, 45 minutes, his wife goes, are you guys going to record or what? And when he went into the booth, the drum booth, I said to her, one of the things you don't know about is the fact is, when you go to the studio the first time, you're pumped so high that you're just like, okay, let's go. You have to relax. You have to get back into the groove. And I said, that's what we were doing. Because I knew that the producer, my co-producer on it, was a very famous writer. He'd written a lot of famous country songs. So he knew, and then once you get into that mood, then you can kind of go into it and get done with it. When you do these things, and here you are, you work on a double album and all that stuff, what's your ultimate goal? I mean, you can put out a good product, but if nobody listens to it, how are you going to get out there and let people know about it?
Yeah, the impetus for me getting back into music was just really a nudge from one of the guys who co-produces with me. And we were actually sitting around just messing around one night. I was playing some songs and he goes, those are pretty good. And I'm like, well, those are ones I wrote. And he said, we should maybe write some more and do an album or something. And I said, well, I got 100 of these. And so that's where, when we went back in and did the album a few years ago, True Rendition, and got back into the studio, most of those songs were ones I just had lying around.
Right. And
then I started to write. Once I got back into the groove, I started writing new songs again. And the way I kind of look at it is, my job is to get out of the way, get these songs down, and get them out there to do whatever they're meant to do. And if that's that a couple people hear them and really get into them, or 20,000 or 2 million, that's up to the songs. My job is to try to just stay the hell out of the way once I get them going. I'd like to get out and tour, which with my day job hasn't been anything that I've been able to really coordinate at this point, but it's something I think here in the not too distant future, something we can manage. So at this point, it's really about putting out a product out into the world. And we've got this second half coming out in March, I think. And we've already recorded the tracks for the next album. So that one, we could have another one. I guess we could have that come out in this coming year too. And then I've already wrote the one after that. So right now it's about product. And then at some point I'd like to get out and, personally promote it a little more by being, playing live.
So you do something else, obviously. What are you doing now besides this?
Still doing the solar.
You're still in the power business? Yeah,
we're looking to, I'm looking to sell that business, but it's been a slower process than I was expecting. But once we get that wrapped up, then I'll probably be able to reconfigure my music schedule a little bit.
Well, I think the thing about it is, this is what we hope as we get older. We have money to do what we want to do. and
Because no, when you're 18, you can't really don't have a spare dime to make any.
no, no, and I've got a gal coming on tomorrow that she's with a magazine, and she's going to talk about what bands don't do to promote themselves, what you need to do, for publicity and PR and all that stuff. I mean, it's a world of, and I know because it's hard for everybody to figure out, where am I going to promote this? Do I spend a lot of time and effort on Instagram, or do I go on, and well, TikTok's going away, so you might as well, I don't think it's going to be around anymore. Do I talk to PR people and spend a lot of money with PR people? Do I go out and do a lot of interviews? There's a lot of avenues to think about. Were you ever told that you're unique, that you're different, and you may not be able to make it in the music business? Were you ever told that? Have you ever got the word like, well, maybe not, or maybe not, maybe never?
With my voice, to your point, it can kind of cut both ways, right? It's not a quintessential rock voice. It's not a quintessential country voice. It's a versatile. That's one thing I've learned about it, come to appreciate, and we try to capitalize on it, is the versatility of it, and just really embracing what it is and running with it. But yeah, I've had folks say that's where's that really going to fit in? And I'm like, well, if you listen to the music I listen to, you would know, because a lot of the folks I listen to don't have quintessential voices. But I listen to them all the time, and Bob Dylan never had a problem with it, so it's fine.
I just said that to somebody the other day about that. They said, I think it was my brother, we were talking about music, and I said something about, I've been to a recording academy event here in Dallas recently. I got invited to go to it. And a guy got up and sang kind of old country stuff. But I said, not my cup of tea, but everybody seems to like him. I said, and Bob Dylan couldn't sing either, but look how far he went in his career. But I think in your situation, you should just lean into it. I mean, to me, it's so interesting that you're not like everybody else. That you're not, you're not going to go, I don't think you're going to ever go, and I may be wrong, I've listened to some of your stuff, especially the one that had when they made a comment about Monty Python. I thought that was pretty fun because it had that's a really cool video though. I mean, that's instead of standing around and doing something and you lip syncing to the song, you have this collage of course I used to be a Monty Python fan, which adds more to it. And I think the other thing too is nobody knows what you look like. I mean, they do when they see some of your videos. When you do a video like that, there's no preconceived notion. People listen to the music. Because I think more people, when they see you, then they automatically go, oh, well, he's too old, too young, I don't like his hair, it's a guy, not blah, blah, blah. When you do a video like that, I think that really takes it away, because then it's so interesting. Now, who came up with that concept? Was that you did?
That Collage had done a video for us previously, and then it's the collaboration. And so on that one, we decided let's do the collage, but have a few stills of me in it, kind of mixed in, just to take it to that next step. And so, having collaborated before, we just thought that was a great fit. And yeah, I saw someone came up with the Monty Python comparison, which is.
But the sad thing about that, many people don't know who Monty Python is.
Probably true. Yeah. Well,
they may have heard of the act. They may have heard of the comedic act, but never the show.
Correct.
Terry Gilliam did all that stuff for him all the time. And to me, also, a lot of the cartoons they come out with now, the adult cartoons, kind of remind me of that, because they don't move hardly. It's like, so, and you could see Terry Gilliam's moving his parts around and taking pictures and all that stuff.
Correct. Yeah, that's what that collage effect does in that video for paying dues, is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I think you've got an interesting road ahead of you. The one thing I've learned is in this business is everybody knows everybody. And you mentioned earlier in a conversation that you had a friend that works with you that's a touring musician. And you also know it's all about working out, networking with people. And it's always amazing how many people in different genres know other people in the music industry. And when you start what you've already done, and you got other people, I don't want to use pitching, but other people are promoting you, it's better than doing it yourself. It just is never, people don't listen to you. Hey, I've got a great tune. Oh, okay. You're sitting in front of Curb Record guy, and you're like, yeah, okay, send it to my gal over here. I'll get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said for the networking, and that's that's whether you're in Nashville, New York, wherever, Texas.
Doesn't matter.
It really is. I guess like any industry, it's much smaller than folks might think. You get out and start meeting people, working with people. You can, you're just a few degrees of freedom from anyone, really.
And you never know, and I said this to many people, all the people I interviewed, somewhere along the line, people take a chance. A lot of people that get successful, I'll start with this, they have to be talented. That's number one, they have to have talent. But they always take a risk, whether it's they quit their day job, I played in a bar for 3 years and finally somebody saw me, and I work at McDonald's during the day. There's always something there that it's innate in musicians. We're driven to do stuff that people would never do because we love the music. And I wish more people could understand that, because I've said many times to people, when people start liking your music and they start singing with you, or you get applause when you play to perform, this, when you start playing a song and the crowd goes, oh, wow, that's really good. And you're like, oh, okay, I think I've done something really good here. I guess I want to keep going. And that gives you that impetus to keep moving along down the road. I'm a firm believer, until you're dead, you should keep doing it. I mean, it's like, people, because my heroes, so to speak, they're all older than me. Billy Gibbons is 75, turned 75 Sunday. And of course my friends remind me, well, he's getting older. Guess what you are? Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. So I like both sides of the coin. I like young performers coming up, but I also like people who've been around for a long time. And when you're starting, like you, starting later in life, so to speak, I think it's a great place to be. Because I don't think a lot of people know this. When you perform like you do, you probably effectively get new fans that you don't even know. And they never tell you. And I think that's what makes the world go around in music. If your opportunity to go and do what you're doing what you want to do. You're putting an album out. Eventually, you'll go out and do your thing, and you'll tour, and then you'll realize, well, maybe this day job's a little bit better. And I thought,
There you go.
Getting on a bus every night, I don't know if that's as much fun as I thought it was going to. What town are we in today? Okay, but so hopefully that'll work out for you. I have high hopes for you. I usually, when I talk to people, I've seen a lot of bands come and go. I mean, a lot of independent artists I've done, but I've also seen them start out and keep going more and more and more, and their name goes up on the marquee until they finally get at the top.
There you go.
But you have an opportunity there with so many places to perform.
Yeah, there are hundreds just in the town itself,
Yeah.
And then of course the Southeast is pretty condensed as far as the next town over isn't.
Oh yeah.
It's not like Texas where you can pay
no.
a concert, right? Yeah.
No, it's not. So, all right, Chris, thank you so much for your time, brother. You have a great afternoon, and we'll keep in touch.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, you take care. We'll see you.
Blanked out as the canvas of the artist who was painting me. Woke up in a boxcar in Omaha, Nebraska, with all their brushes missing and all their muses passed out. Curled up on the porch with me. Curled up on the porch with me. Time keep ticking, what life be making. I ain't breaking 'cause I already broke. I still kicking, ain't need no fix. I do a lot of living on a little hope. Hustling for my supper in Troubadour County, where I'm the only danger, with angels all around me. One seemed to have flown away. She be laying low in Yankton, South Dakota, where everyone's a friend, but no one seemed to know ya. That's how things can get this way. That's how things can get this way. Time keep ticking, what life be making. I ain't breaking 'cause I already broke. I still kicking, ain't need no fix. I do a lot of living on a little hope. Kick the habit, but I don't think I'm gonna. Deserts burn to feel the rain. Slowly moving in from Southern California. She's masking up her past and tackling her torture, but she never learned to love my pain. She never learned to love my pain. Time keep ticking, what life be making. I ain't breaking 'cause I already broke. I still kicking, they need no fix. I do a lot of living on a little hope. Time keep ticking, what life be making. I ain't breaking, I already broke. I still kicking, they need no fix. I do a lot of living on a little hope.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Chris with his stories and enjoyed one of his tunes. If you want to know more about Chris, go to his website, Chris Bullinger, BULLINGER.com, chrisbullinger.com. Everything is right there, all the links to everything about his music. Special shout out to, of course, once again to our supporter, David Smith with Edward Jones. And remember, anything you want to know more about The Trout Show, you can find on our website at thetroutshow.com. Oh, and check out our other podcast, Viral to Vinyl. There's another one coming up in the next day or two about everything to do with music, history, and all that good stuff. So, once again, thanks so much for stopping by to The Trout Show. And remember what I always say, it's only rock and roll, but I love it. See ya.